Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our Plant of the Week podcast, brought to you by Bonide Products, family made in America. Visit Bonide.com to find a retailer near you. Each week, Plant Talk Radio's Fred Hauer focuses on a plant that would be a great addition to your landscape. Now for this week's Bonide Products Plant of the Week.
I've gone again to the plants of the week, and I kind of spilled it early, which is fine. The rhododendron group, which I'm going to put it that way. All azaleas are rhododendron, all rhododendrons are rhododendrons, and we'll just stop there.
Okay, you've got me confused now.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, let's think in terms of rhododendron. Plant of the week several weeks ago was the PJM rhododendron, which blooms profusely and early and loves the cold weather. It has since dropped all of its foliage, dropped all of its flowers, put on foliage and so on. Right now, I'm going to call it the standard rhododendron. The one with the leaf 6-8 inches long, 2 2.25, 2.5 wide, that has the great big cluster flower. There are any number of actual flowers in a cluster, and they run from nearly pure white, depending on kind. Now they dip from pure white on into the lavenders, pinks, purplish, etc. And I am lucky enough to have 3 what I call standard plants that are doing their thing. And then several years ago, I came across a variegated leafed rhododendron, which has the standard lavender flower on it. It, too, is popping out right now. And then, of course, the variegations will show all summer long, all year long. Then, to my prize plant, when I used to sell it to people and so on, it was called Hino Crimson. It was considered a dwarf azalea. Well, my dwarf is now chest high and 4.5 feet across, but it's approaching 30 plus couple years and doing quite nicely. And then one of the call it softer arrangements of flowers in that family are the mollus type of azaleas. They're going to run whitish, cream, beige, off into oranges and so on. Very, what I call soft colors. Now, you definitely get a color from them, but it's not a harsh red or blue or purple or whatever. And those are all doing their thing right now. The difference that you want to consider is that the rhododendrons and the Hino Crimson that I mentioned and so on are all evergreens. They will keep their leaf all year long. When you buy a mollus type azalea at this time of year, because it's so striking, you put it in the ground, you take good care of it, it lives on through, then it comes October and boom, all the leaves drop off. Well, that is normal for that plant. They are a deciduous type of azalea, and in a way that gives them some little bit of winter protection and not having to put up with the sun and wind and so on all winter. But all of these plants are plants that can be grown in Ohio. There is a portion of Ohio that is acidic, and that's normally the east and down toward Marietta and so on, all the way down that line. The rest of Ohio is pretty much on the alkaline side. Rhododendrons, as a group, do not like alkaline soils. So when you buy one, and they are beautiful enough to put up with some, minor battles, be sure that you dig the hole wide enough. Do not dig the hole more than about a half an inch less deep than the root ball on the plant. Then, when you take the root ball out of the plant, out of the pot, be sure that you either cut or, we'll call it massage the roots so that water can move back into the ball. The roots will stop going on around in circles as per their standard growth up until that point in time. And then when you water right at the crown of the plant so that you're sure water is going into the root mass, because I've seen any number of rhododendron types as well as other plants that people promise me they have watered, but they didn't open up the root ball. They didn't allow for, let's just say, water to get into the root ball. The water has gone off the top of the plant roots, down the sides, into the prepared soil, and up and dies the rhododendron you paid $25 or more for. So be cautious about that. And then the rewards are remarkable because, I live in central Ohio. Let's just say about as thick and dense a yellow clay as you can get. And my sons will vividly remember preparing the soil, adding a lot of organic and so on. Mm-hmm. And, it's now 35 years later, and those plants are still fantastic right now.
And with any of the rhododendron family, you need to feed them correctly, too.
Yes, this would be true, Mark. And here is where, just in a general statement, use an acid type of fertilizer. It would be noted on the package, be it a dry powder, a prill, or water soluble. It will say that it's acidic, and it's formulated to help keep the pH down. We're not going to worry about numbers, but 7, for those of you who are familiar, is the median for alkalinity and acidity in the soil. And you need to bring the acidity down to around 5.5, which is extremely difficult to do and hard to maintain there. But as long as you keep using fertilizers, this time of year, I would say that I would have already put on fertilizer 3-4 weeks ago, about half what's recommended for the year. Then after they finish blooming, I'll put on the other half, and that'll keep them, it'll keep the nutrition available. It'll help acidify the soil, and all should be well.
Thanks again for listening to our podcast, brought to you by Bonide Products at Bonide.com. Plant Talk Radio offers other podcasts as well, including our daily Your Gardening Question podcast and our weekly Plant Talk Radio, all available on iTunes or your preferred podcast player. If you have a plant suggestion for Fred, send him an email, fred@planttalkradio.com.